So this is how to play like Xabi Alonso. So in Xabi Alonso's side, all his players buy into his philosophy. So your players have to also buy into your philosophy, and also you as the manager have to trust your players. These are very important aspects before we get into the tactics. So a part of Xabi Alonso's tactics is, first of all, his goalkeeper has to always pass short. Another thing, what happens is the left mid, which is usually the left wing back, goes a bit more inverted. So this would usually be Grimaldo. You would find him more inverted. You would find him in the pockets, right? Frimpong would be more of a right winger. He would be here. He would be a lot in the. He would be in the box a lot, and so let's get started. So these are the center backs, right? So the center backs are very important. They have to be fast, tall, strong, and they also have to have the ability to play long, right? So this what Xabi Alonso's idea behind this is. So you pass a lot between the defensive midfielders. You pass, you pass. The team gets so fed up that their entire team gets here, right? The entire not the entire, but a lot of the opposition end up pressuring here. This creates space for Wirtz, right, to drop deep. And when Wirtz drops deep, the players don't know if they should mark him or not, and usually they leave him empty. So he has a lot of space to roam around with. Wirtz is almost like it's almost like the magician. If you have a magician on your team, he would be the Wirtz. So they would usually pass around a lot. They would pass to each other. Center back goes to right, defensive midfielder goes to right, center back. They pass between each other a lot, so the whole team the entire opposition gets fed up. So this is when they pass it to, this is when they cross it to Ronaldo, when they cross it to Frimpong, right? This is when also the players get involved. So one thing that makes Xabi Alonso's team very special is the relationism, right? So for example, Pep is very positional. He doesn't want his players moving a lot. But in terms of relationism, it's the philosophy that you should trust your players, right? If a player thinks that going into a certain position would benefit the team, he is allowed to go there. So for Xabi Alonso, for example, if you watch any of Leverkusen's games, you would know that Wirtz drops deep. Grimaldo goes inverted a lot. Even sometimes what happens is Wirtz would play false nine. This would be Adli, right? Frimpong would play as always inverted, but also sometimes what would happen is Grimaldo would go very inverted. So who would cover up the space? Hincapi. Sometimes even Xhaka would go very high up. Palacios and Xhaka, there's a lot of link up in between them, right? Also, this would be Hoffman. So Wirtz would usually come up and play a lot with Hoffman. They would play 1-2s, right? And another thing that makes Xabi Alonso's team very special is so sometimes what happens is when they are in possession, Xhaka would come here and Palacios will go up here. So what does that mean? That means that if the ball goes to Xhaka and he passes it to Palacios, he's already right ahead in attack. He's got 5 players beside him and he's already up in attack. Compared to if Palacios was here, they would have to go play wide. They wouldn't be progressing forward. One of my favorite things about Xabi Alonso's tactics is the clusters that he makes, right? Because that's the reason why it's so hard to get the ball off of Xabi Alonso's team, because of the clusters. What I mean by clusters is a circle or a triangle of 5, right? So a position of 5, a shape of 5. So let us say like that. This will usually happen a lot in the game. You would have 5 players. They would boom, 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 boom. A lot of passes, right, in between them. This will make it very hard for the opposition team to get the ball away from them. And what will also happen is they will get a lot of clusters, right? Like that, boom, 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 right? And what will happen sometimes this would be Adli, sometimes this would be Grimaldo. he would go right up here. This would be freeing up the space to isolate, right? So isolating to free up the space. So if they play Allah here, and this is one of Xabi Alonso's tactics, they play Allah in between each other. They have a player, they always know that they have a player out wide. So when their entirety and the opposition gets overloaded in this area, they know that they could just switch it over to Adli at any time, or Grimaldo. So the most important part of this video and what you came here for is how can you apply Xabi Alonso's tactics into your team. And the best solution would be game realistic scenarios, whether it's in drills or in training. So the first drill you could do is the first thing I talked about, which is how they invite the pressure over on purpose, so the whole team gets on here, the whole team gets in their side. So once that happens, they could go pass out wide to Grimaldo, they could go pass out wide to Verts, so then they have all the space for them out here to attack. That's the first thing you could do. So the training drill would basically be pass, 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 invite the pressure over, and then one of your center backs has to go and cross out long. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be is to make a lot of clusters, right? So for example, boom, you got a cluster right here, boom, 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 a lot of clusters. Once that happens, and also keep, for example, Grimaldo out here. Once that happens, so you form a drill, you form a lot of clusters, and once the pressure invites over, you have to switch it over to the other side. Also, another thing you should apply is the striker dropping in behind. So when the striker goes up high, it stretches the pitch, but also when he goes down low, which is something he can, when the striker drops a bit deeper, he can actually link up with the play, making him an extra player, an extra passing option, which is something Xabi Alonso wants, right? So if you watch Xabi Alonso's team, you realize how many passing options each player has. Another thing you could do is one of the most important aspects of Xabi Alonso's team, which is also very fun to watch, which is relationism. So something you would find a lot, as I've talked about, is players in all different positions. And one thing you could do is in game scenario, one thing you could do in training is make one of your CDMs almost in parallel with each other on the pitch. This would make it so once a defensive midfielder passes to the right defensive midfielder, he could go. He's already in attack. He's a big threat. But if you just pass it out wide, it's not really a threat. So that's why also you could do that in game scenarios. Another thing you could do is have your magician, your team drop deeper, which creates a lot of space, because then you have a lot of space out here, and also the player marking him doesn't know if he should go down with your magician. The last drill that I wanna talk about, which is probably the hardest to master, right? But it's very fun to watch, and it's also it disrupts the opponent's defensive structure in an insane way. That is how good I find this drill to be. So it sounds simple, and it's much harder said than done. So you have every single player, once he passes to a player, he has to go where he passes, right? So let us say the center back passes to the defensive midfielder, he has to go there. The right defensive midfielder passes to the right midfielder. That will happen. The right midfielder passes to the left attacking midfielder, he has to go there. The left attacking midfielder passes to the striker, he has to go there. So it's all about how you create these clusters, but also how you create relationism and make it very hard for your opponent to get a hold of you. You make it very hard for your opponent to track you. this also not only creates clusters, but it will also create a lot of tiki-taka play. As if you watch the Barcelona in the early 2010s, you watch their under Pep Guardiola, you watched how their tiki-taka was. Uh, Messi would pass to, let us say this is Dani Alves. Messi would pass to Dani Alves would come here, Messi would come here. So it's all about moving in and about. It's hard to teach this, but with enough practice, this can come to life. So usually what would happen is Xabi Alonso would use a lot of gegenpressing. That's something I forgot to mention. Xabi Alonso loves gegenpressing, and he loves pressuring off a heavy touch or a bad pass. But sometimes he likes to go for the counter attack. So this is what he did against Bayern, and you can apply this as well. So these are the two holding midfielders of Bayern, right? Usually the midfielders would come and mark them. But because Bayern have such a good attack, that Xabi Alonso needed to make it so that the holding midfielders would cut the passing lanes of the attackers. Right? So this is what he would do. Right? But then who would hold the midfielders? This is what will happen. If the center backs are passing here, let us bring the players back. If the center backs are passing here, so if the center backs are passing, what will happen is, if the ball is here, the left attacking midfielder would go and press. If the ball is in the middle, the striker would go and press. If the right attacking midfielder, if the ball was with the left center back, the right attacking midfielder would go and press. So this would happen all game long, right? This would happen so that these two players are always these holding midfielders don't have the chance to get the ball, because in football you have to control the midfield. If you control the midfield, you control the game. This is why they always try to play through the midfield. But Xabi Alonso has always found ways around it, and he's managed to cut the passing lanes. So what would happen is, although he is pressuring, but this is nowhere near enough pressure, or nowhere near enough pressure to get the ball back, because Xabi Alonso doesn't want to always stay out of possession. He wants to have some possession. So when they would go and press, what would happen is the whole attacking, so the Grimaldo would go here, he would man mark the midfielder, and so what will happen is, and then Hincapi would go left back. The other two center backs, Tapsoba and Tah, would come here, right? And Frimpong would also sometimes drop here, right? So now, not only have you controlled the midfield, let us say Jaha goes here, not only have you controlled not only have you taken a hold of the midfield, but you also now have you have a lot of pressure, so you can get the ball back. And this would happen on the same side. If the ball would go here, the same thing would happen. Boom. So this is how Xabi Alonso would play off the counter attack, but usually he would go for the normal playing style he always plays with.